Strawman settlement. Terminate to liberate.
And how we're going to do this settlement. So if we drew a circle, say in the middle of a paper, about a 6-inch circle, we drew a line right down, vertical line right down the center of it, split it in half. And on the left side is really the public side, the minus side, where the liability is. And on the right side is the asset side or the private side. Now, I would draw a line, a horizontal line at the bottom of the circle straight across. And now what you have is the traditional upside-down T account, which is nothing more than a ledger under accounting, where you have assets on the right and you have liabilities on the left. So when they go into the DTC and they go in answering questions, they are not asking questions as king, because the king always asks questions. So it's ask king questions as king. So the one who asks the question is the king. And they're asking the questions whether or not you know what you're doing in there, and you're not going in as the king asking questions. They're asking the questions, and they're the king, and you're the debtor. And those people that are successful to get in there think they're going to be getting access to their accounts. And here's where the big benefit comes in. And if you fall into the trap by taking the benefit, you never even got out, and you've got yourself in a bigger mess than what you got into, because you are just nothing more than a better paid slave. Because they're going to give to you all the treasury securities, the treasury bills, the T-bills, and maybe even the gold certificates or whatever's in that account. They're going to give it all to you. And at that moment, what you do with it is going to determine whether or not you're going to be succeeding in completing what you thought you were starting out doing, or whether you're going to never get out and you're going to increase the debt even farther, and they're going to love you for it. Because if you take those certificates, those T-bills, and you spend them like money, like they hope you will, you're going to take the benefit, which is the debt, and you're going to spend it back into the debt system and thinking that you got access to your account, and you didn't. So all those debt titles on the left side, we're going to draw inside that left side, we're going to draw another smaller circle, and we're going to put a capital T in there, and capital T stands for titles. And at the foot of that T, we're going to put a small d. The D stands for debt. So it's the titles to the debt on the left side. We're going to do another circle on the right side. We're going to put a capital T in there also. Now that's the titles. And at the foot of that T, we're going to put a little A. And the A stands for assets. So it's the titles to the assets. Now if you take those titles to the debt on the debt side and you spend them, you're just going to create more debt, double debt, paying debt, and you can't pay debt with debt. It just keeps mounting up, and that's why they're loving you. And you're creating more problems than you realize. You're putting the final clinches on the whole collapse of this whole thing. But if you treat it as a trust, and you take the title and you draw a line from the TD up to, now we're going to draw another circle at the top, and we're going to put SM in there. That's the straw man account. We're going to take and merge the titles. We're going to move the title, the TD, and we're going to draw an arrow to that SM. And we're going to move that title to the debt into that SM, that straw man account. And on the right-hand side, the TA, the title to the assets, which is going to be the same amount as the TD on the left. They're going to be equal. We're going to move that title. We're going to draw a line up from that TA up into that SM straw man account. Now what we've done is we've settled the accounts. In effect, we're closing it. You've got the assets equaling the debts. And what happens when you take a minus and a plus and bring it together? Well, it discharges on the public side and it sets off on the private side. You bring the account to zero. But here's the thing. 1 penny of real money, lawful money on the private side will discharge all debts, all fiction money on the liability side. So if I fell into the trap and used those titles to the debt as money, I never did collapse the trust. I never did terminate the trust. Trust still exists. But if I move both titles to the debt into the straw man and the titles to the assets, the straw man accounts terminates. The trust purpose has been fulfilled. There is no trust. And what happens when the trust is terminated? The trustee must wind it up. he winds up the trust and he terminates the trust. In other words, he has to disperse the funds. The real money still being held in private, minus, say, 1 penny. So now, what we're going to do from the remainder, let's back up a little bit. We're going to, after we gave the order for the settlement, we're going to give an order for the discharge on the public side. We're going to give an order for the set-off on the private side. And we're going to give an order to set up a new trust on the private side. And once that strawman account is closed, the remainder from that account is going to be transferred into the new trust. And that new trust you're going to get a whole total different kind of credentials for. The strawman account with his capital names, with all the accounts associated with him, are eliminated. They're gone. They're terminated, period. All your electric bill accounts and everything in that way will no longer exist. But you're going to form a new trust, another account, and you're going to have the remainder of that assets being put into that. And that's going to remain on the private side. Then you're going to come back over and you're going to order a new trust to be set up on the public side, an LLC, say, for example. You're going to order the Treasury to do the trade or whatever they're going to do to generate the interest held on the property or the assets held in private, and to deposit that interest and that LLC on the public side. And you will live forever on the interest that was generated from that. And as long as you just use that interest to purchase goods and service, that the goods and service that you purchase are consumed by the real man held in private. As long as you don't conduct a business with that account, that new LLC, you won't be commingling your funds again, and you won't be creating any new debt. So in effect, you've taken care of the war debt, taken care of all past debts, and you've paid all present, and you've paid all future debts that may be in the future. And you've discharged them on the public side and set them off on the private side. And the remainder was transferred into this new account on the private side, which was generating interest on a new LLC on the public side, and that interest was placed into that. And you will write checks like that, and nobody will be the wiser. And it is not taxable because it's foreign source. And you will be given the credentials to identify this new trust entity, and you'll become whoever. And you'll be able to travel like you were before, probably with more freedom than you had before under today's terms. As long as we do due process and notify all parties, and they will never answer back, because they never have. Because if they did, they'd be acknowledging the debt themselves, and it would stop the prescription. So we have to go and ask questions, because the one asking questions as king is king. And the questions I want to be asking are, do you have all the necessary forms in your possession to close and settle this account? If they say yes, well then, you've already got the order for the settlement, then close and settle it. If they say no, then I would give them an order to give me the forms that I need to complete the information so you can close and settle the accounts. So that also explains the reasons why some of these 1099 OIDs that were withholding, they put on the withholding there and taxed it back to the principal. And as soon as they got it back to the principal, the IRS seized the funds or locked up the account, because the account, the IRS accountants couldn't give the disbursement to the beneficiaries who were debtors, because as soon as the assets were transferred to them, the creditors would jump all on them. So what they had to do is they had to seize the assets and apply it to the debt. And that's why you didn't get any funds. And until we pay the past war debts, all the past debts, present debts, and future debts that may be out there, do the discharge on the public side and set off on the private side, terminate that account.